Welcome to Weekly Personal Implementation Plans, also known as PIPs, Best Practices. I'm your implementation consultant, Blaine Elkers, and today what we're going to cover is an overview of personal implementation plans. And so I'll give you a little introduction. What are they? Why should you care about them? And then we'll talk about the 4 parts to a personal weekly implementation plan. And those are wins for the week, top items for next week, rewards, and then what I call the mighty mastermind. So let's talk about what will you accomplish in the next year, 5 years, 5 months, 2 weeks. What are you going to accomplish? What do you want to accomplish? And when I ask in live seminars and take audience participation, these are the things that come up. People want clarity. They want clarity in mission, strategy, marketing. They want to increase sales and profits. They want to improve operations. They want higher customer value and retention. They want customers constantly referring. They want systems in place to run all the daily operations, and they want more time off, more balance. And then as you get older, you're kind of looking for that exit strategy. You want to have that exit strategy in place for your business. Now let me ask you, does such a place exist that has you ahead of schedule, that has you with lots of free time? A place where everything's handled. There's systems are all in place, everything's handled, everything's on course. Your business is growing, you've got guilt-free days, maybe in some case guilt-free weeks off. You feel great, you look great. I mean, there's an inner knowing and confidence about you. You know what you're doing. It doesn't matter what happens. You'll respond to what happens. You feel great on kind of on the inside and the outside. You're healthy. Things are going great. And you feel like you're contributing. You feel like you're adding value. Does this place exist, or is it mythical? Yes, this place does exist, and it comes from weekly implementation, personal implementation plans. And you know, a lot of times when I'm coaching people, clarity is the most important thing. I've got a new quote for 2015, which is, why build a road south when you're heading north? So think about that for a moment. Why build a road south when you're heading north? A lot of people, they're working on stuff and they're building this road south. They're working on things in their life in a direction they don't even want to go. They don't even know what true north is for them. Or they figured it out. Yes, this is what I want to do. But week in and week out, they're working on things that are, again, building the road south, not heading north. How do you ensure that you're heading north week after week after week, month after month after month? Well, you do that through personal implementation plans. And so we've talked in the past about the 3 C's of all success, which are clarity, create a plan, and then carry it out. And so you start with clarity. You start with taking the time to look at that long-term vision. What do you want, 3 to 5 years from now? You bring that down into doable, kind of seeable, you can see, feel, and touch it, 90-day goals. But then your results come from these last 2 C's, where over and over you're creating a plan and you're carrying it out. You're creating a plan, maybe modifying your plan, and then you're carrying it out. Create a plan and carry it out. That's where all your results are coming from. And it is up to you. You're in control of your success. You're in control of your time. It might not feel that way, but once you get into personal implementation plans, you will find that you have that control. So what is a personal implementation plan? What makes it up, right? It's got 4 parts. And what it is on a weekly basis, you're looking at what are your wins for the week. You're also looking at what are my top items? What's the most important thing? What's the most essential thing to do next week? That's the top items. You're looking at how am I going to reward myself for getting those things done? And then the last part is you're doing it within a mastermind framework. You're using the power of other people's minds in addition to your own. And so let's break this down a little bit. After coaching thousands of people what I realized for myself and for those that I was coaching is that weekly works. If you're looking at your wins on a weekly basis, you're getting the inspiration and the motivation that you need to continue. If you're looking at what is the top items for me to do, what's the most essential, the old 80-20 rule, I'm working on the 20% that's creating 80% of the results, because you're getting clarity and focus on a weekly basis. And then you're also getting, by rewarding yourself, you've got a celebration part, but you're also rewarding progress. And on the screen, if you're watching the video right now, you'll see that that progress word is in red. And that's because progress is the most important thing to have in your business life, and I think actually even in your personal life. It's that progressive realization of a worthy ideal that keeps you going. There's a great Harvard review study about the power of small wins. And when people were asked, here are the good days, here are the bad days, the good days always had some measurable progress. That's what kept people going, is having some small wins, some measurable progress every day. Done is the engine of more. When you get stuff done, it moves you forward. It builds momentum. And then the last part is the feedback and accountability. That's where the mastermind comes through. On a weekly basis, you're not going to drift very far off course. You're not going to build the road too far south, because on a weekly basis, you're getting feedback and accountability. It's important to measure your success. If you're looking at the screen in the lower left corner there's a wooden object. Do you know what that is? Take a look. What is that? That's actually a wooden boat rudder. And in coaching, I was coaching some attorneys, and this one attorney said, look, these weekly personal implementation plans, that's my rudder. And that's what makes sure he knows where he's going. That's what controls where he's going. Without a rudder, you really can't go anyplace. You can't control the direction or the movement of the boat at all. It's that small piece that actually is the guidepost, the reason for you getting to where you want to be. It's that rudder. So weekly works, and it's the rudder. Here's an example of an implementation plan. This is one of mine, where my wins for the week was I got to 5,000 LinkedIn connections, which is fantastic. I had a great trip with Bo, who's my son. I walked over 20 miles in 2 days. I completed the prep for an event that I was doing. I ran some great accountability and mastermind days. Those are my wins. And I actually saved those wins. So I kind of have my wins for the week, which turns into wins for the month, which turns into wins for the year. It's kind of like a little achievement log. Then top items for me, it was a successful event. I was going to do an event, also a CEO mastermind meeting, and setting new 30-day health goal. So that for me those were in this particular week, those were my top items. And a reward for myself, I was going to have a special day with my wife, Beth. So that's an example of a simple personal implementation plan. Now they can get much fancier than that, and if you ever want to go deep, you can contact me. I've got very detailed plans for those that want to dive in a little bit more. But know this, know that it's easy. It's not always simple, but it's something that's easy to do, and it will increase the value, the sales, the profitability, all those things you're looking for in your business. It will do that. But as you see on the screen, the person has their arms open because it'll also help you emotionally. Not only will it show up in your sales of your business, but it'll show up in your personality. It'll show up in you being happier, feeling better. It'll have some emotional success for you along with the business success. So let's break down each one of the 4 sections a little bit. Let's talk about why we do it, and then let's talk about some best practices. First of all, why do we celebrate wins? Well, we celebrate wins on a weekly basis. One is to measure progress. Like I said, progress is probably a bigger motivator than just about anything else. And I'll talk a little bit more about that Harvard review study on that. The second thing is inspiration. Hearing, first of all, collecting your own wins is inspiring, but hearing the wins of other people, that inspires you to want to do more. But also, you're in this group of people that are winning. You feel better about yourself, and there's a lot of inspiration that comes from it. It also, hearing the wins of other people expands what's possible for you, right? So if you're thinking like, oh, I'd like to write a book, and you're you're doing your weekly plan and you're masterminding with other people, and you hear that a person's win is that they just finished the book. Well, now, you're like, look, I know that person. They can do it. I can do it. Expands what's possible for you to hear how other people are winning. And it also opens the door to mentorship, because now you can go to that person and you can say, hey, I see you finished your book. How did you do it? Who did you use as a publisher? You get into the nitty gritty. There's a mentorship that happens. And also hearing those other people's wins, it opens the door. So for example, for me, you saw that I got to 5,000 connections in LinkedIn. Now, if you're interested in building your LinkedIn, you can come to me and we can talk about how do you do that, right? There's that ability to mentorship. But for your own, as you begin to win, and we say win early, win often, I'll talk about that in a second, but your confidence grows along with your motivation. So you start to really feel like you can get more done. And in that Harvard Business Review, if you want, you can contact me. I can get you a link to the results of this study. But it was all about the power of small wins and the power progress had to motivate people to do more. And like I said before, what a good day was the days that they had progress. And I was happy. I knew this worked, but I was so happy to see science begin to back up why you should keep track of your wins, especially on a weekly basis. All right, what are the best practices in keeping track of your wins on a weekly basis? First of all, like I said, win early, win often. Win early and win often. So what that means is chunk down your tasks to small enough chunks that you can win that week, or that you could win that in one day, right? Make sure you make it small enough. For example, if you wanted to write a book, and so you think, okay, I want to write a book. You can't say I'll write a book next week, but you could say, and maybe you could. You actually, there may be some ways that someone could write a book in a week. It's possible. But if you said, I'm going to spend 1 hour creating the outline of the book. See, now that's all you. That's all you. That's all your time. You can easily get that as a win. And what I find is that when people don't win, it's because the wins were too big and they need to chunk it down to a smaller size. So if someone came back a week later and they didn't even spend an hour making the outline of the book, we'd say, okay, let's chunk it down. Can you do 30 minutes this week? Can you do 10 minutes? Can you do 5 minutes? Whatever it is, you want to always win, and you want to set yourself up for early wins, win early, win often. You also want to track it. Track your wins. I have a little sheet as the week goes on. I've got my plan for the week, and I'm tracking those wins. Also track the wins in the business area, but also in the personal area and the family area. The tracking of your wins also allows you to create a beautiful achievement list. So I've got my weekly wins. Well, they turn into the wins for the month, which turns into the wins for the year, which I use actually to do a little holiday letter at the end of the year. The other last thing with the wins best practices is shrink to ensure success. So I kind of talked about that already, but it's important that you do always win. So if you find you're not winning, you just shrink it right down till you get to something that you know you can win. All right, let's move on to the second part, which is top items. What's the most important thing to move my business forward that I can accomplish next week? That's what the top items is all about. And why do we do that? Because this forces you to get clarity and to get focus. It has you reset, get off the road south if that's where you're heading, and head north again. It forces you to get clear. What's the most important thing I need to do next week to move my business? So it forces clarity. It also forces prioritization. It ensures that you're getting the right stuff done. So there's trade-offs. You might have 30 things you need to do for your business. Well, you've got to pick the 2 or 3 that are most important and get those done next week. So it forces prioritization. It also maximizes the results and decreases the distractions. Because when you say these are the top items, they get more focus. They're the ones that get started on Monday morning, or maybe even Sunday if you want. But it decreases the distractions because you have a plan. So you wake up every day and you have that plan. It gets you moving in the right direction day in and day out. It also increases your confidence, your vision, your hope. You feel like you're on the right track. And it does this idea of clarity and picking the most important things. It creates more free time for you because what happens is that one decision could make 100 decisions. And what I mean by that is, I'll give you an example. 25 years ago, I made one decision. a clarity decision and that decision was that I was going to work from home. So now all the offers I got to work that didn't have me working from my home, I immediately could say no to. It removed so many possibilities for income generation. I only wanted to work on things that I could do from home. So that one decision made 20, 30 decisions for me. The other thing I have on the screen there is called the Life Jar. So if you haven't seen that, you can Google that on YouTube. But the Life Jar is all about putting the big rocks in first. So somebody tries to fill a jar and they've got big rocks and little rocks and they've got sand and they even have a liquid actually. But if you put too much of the small stuff in, you can't get the big rocks in. But if you start with the big rocks, put the big rocks in first, then the little rocks can fit around the big rocks, then the sand fits around the little rocks, and then the water or the liquid fit around all that. It's a great video if you've never seen it before, but it's important to know, to get the big rocks in first. Now, what about some best practices in the area of these top items for the week? This is by far my most important time of the week. Is typically late Friday, but sometimes Sunday night. I'm picking what is the most important thing for me to do next week. We all have 24 hours in a day, but the 24 hours, it's so important. Your time, it's more valuable than money. So what you do with your time is so important. So for me, taking the time, and it's my most important time of the week, is sitting down to figure out what's the most important things to do next week. I also find that time is my most valuable time. The time that I set aside to plan out the week and pick those top items, it saves me 2 to 10 times in execution, right? By knowing what's the most important stuff, a lot of times I can eliminate the 80% of the stuff that only produces 20% of the results and focus in on the 20% that produces the 80%. Also, it's important for your top items to be written, ranked, and reviewed. They need to be written, ranked, and reviewed. So you need to write them down. You need to rank them in priority order. What's the most important? What's the next most important? What's the third most important? And they need to be reviewed. You need to be sharing them with someone or in a public way. It could be through email, could be through a mastermind meeting, but you need to share them and make sure they're reviewed. You're more likely to stick with it if they're made public. Also, keep it to just a few. These are items, top items that you can do next week. Something you can do next week. If it's too big, chunk it down to ensure success, to make sure it can be done in a week. Also, you want to make time for these things. You want to schedule time for these top items. I typically like to time block my first 1 or 2 hours of every day to just working on those top items. And I also I call it my big rock and my business boulder. My big rock is my personal thing. What's the most important thing for me to do for me personally this week? I call that my big rock. And then my business boulder is what's that most important boulder to put into the jar, so to speak, that I need to do for my business. So what's the most important thing I can do to move my business forward? In my own life, I also say to move my life forward. And I even ask this top item question for people that are important. I have a list of top people, my kids, my wife, and what could I do for them? So I do it kind of on a personal and a business basis. All right, that's the second part. The third part is, why do we have rewards for ourselves? Well, rewards for results works. It works. It works in life. DBV is the day before vacation. When you've got that big reward, you get more done. You push through rough spots. It helps you with perseverance and persistence because you've got that reward to look for. You've got that carrot out there, right? It helps you, having a reward helps you to have balance over burnout, right? And as your self-knowledge goes up, you can have more powerful results because you know what gets you going, right? You know what keeps you going. It increases that self-motivation, and it helps you to kind of go for a little bit more if you have that reward. Some people use small rewards, simple rewards, maybe going out to dinner, going to a movie, and other people have bigger rewards. Maybe they're going to go away for a weekend. But you have that reward, and why you have it is because it helps you through the rough spots. It helps you to go for more, go for a little bit more, and it's also a way to interact with your team. You can have team rewards or office rewards in the office and in your family. So use the rewards in all those different areas. What are some best practices when picking those rewards? Well, make them personal, right? Make sure it's personal. It's something that's rewarding to you. Avoid food. They always say, that it's not good to say reward yourself with cookies or more desserts. That can lead to problems. But if it's like going out to lunch with a friend, that's great. But try to avoid just straight food rewards. Try to have also some small rewards, but then also large rewards. Mix both in there. Do have rewards for the team, office, and family. Sometimes you can just simply use small celebrations. Sometimes when I get something done, I just stand up and do the happy dance. Do, 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 do. I just do a little happy dance. A little celebration is a great way to reward yourself. Create a possible reward list. This is kind of fun and kind of uplifting, is to create a little reward list for yourself. What are the things you can do? Maybe you want to go shopping for some new clothing, maybe getting a massage, maybe going for a great run, maybe buying a new book. There's lots of different things, but create your own possible reward list. And then lastly, I've got a song that I like that I use as a reward. I like the song so much that I have a domain name I bought called powerfulsong.com. And so you can go to that and listen to that song. You may want to use that as a reward. But as a reward for myself, I get to listen to that song when I complete a small task. So that's just another kind of a little fun way to reward yourself. Okay, so we talked about the wins. We talked about the top items. We talked about the rewards. Let's end by talking about mastermind. Why mastermind? What would be possible if the people around you refuse to let you fail? Tim Ferriss, I like his book. It was kind of a groundbreaking book called The 4-Hour Workweek. And he says that I don't think people need more motivation. I think they need feedback and accountability. That's it. I would venture to say that feedback and accountability, such as what is found in a mastermind group, tend to provide the type of motivation that makes the difference. It's feedback and accountability. I've talked about this, maybe you've heard me talk about this before, but Think and Grow Rich. I mean, there's the lost pages where there's these 2 pages that were not in most of the copies, but it was in the original. And the second page of the lost pages talks about you've got to use this mastermind principle. It's absolutely essential because it allows you to tap into the knowledge and the mind of every other person that's in that mastermind group. So let's talk a little bit about why mastermind. First of all, you're getting that feedback. You're getting that accountability on your ideas, on your progress, on your top items. You're tapping into the power of other people's minds. And like we mentioned before, you're tapping into the power of other people's plans. When you hear their rewards, that inspires maybe how you're going to reward yourself. When you hear their wins, that's going to inspire you to go for something or allow you to be mentored by them because they just had that win. I like to say that mastermind groups create kind of a better business, a better you, and better results. So you end up with a better business because you've got the collective business minds together. You end up self-developing, becoming a better person, and the results in your business go up as well. Let's talk about some best practices when you're involved in a mastermind group. First of all, if you're going to get together, in person, on the phone, be fully present, right? Meeting in progress. Don't make it a distraction-free zone. Turn off the cell phones. Don't do email. Really be present when you're, working with the mastermind group. Also, take some notes. Make sure that when you're masterminding that you go over what are the next steps. What are you going to do between those 2 meetings? What are your next steps maybe if you're working on the weekly personal implementation plan? What are your next steps? And make sure that you do touch base regularly. If you don't touch base regularly, you're really not working together. So make sure that communication and that connection is happening, and take ownership. Have that accountability. Make sure you're getting stuff done. Make sure you're making things happen, right? But take ownership for what you said you would do, and hold true to your commitments. In the beginning, you're going to say, I'm going to do this. I will do this. This is what I'm going to do. And the group is going to say, yes, you can. We believe in you. Yes, you can. And then in the end, what happens with mastermind groups, typically is that the bond becomes so great that it's yes, we can. And when I'm in a mastermind group, I'm celebrating that other person's win. I feel like I won, right? It's like you're on a team, and when the team wins, anyone on the team wins, you win. So it really becomes that collective group. So hold up your end of that bargain, hold up that commitment. All right, let's talk about some best practices. Again, it's great if you can connect live in some way. That could be on the phone, could be on Skype, could be in person. Make time for it, be fully present, keep it confidential, prepare your plan, study others. Be open to new ideas. As you go into this, keep an open mind, keep a harmonious mind. Ask specific questions too. When you're in that mastermind group, ask specific questions. Get answers to the questions that you have. Communicate, connect, follow up, and be accountable and hold yourself to that. So now you should be on the screen there. That's the excitement. That's the baby excitement. She is so excited. That's the icon for excitement. But you should be excited now because you're positioning yourself to get maximum benefits through weekly personal implementation plans. Now you have a choice here. You could decide not to do it at all, and then you're going to get no benefit. You could decide to email it, and that's good. You can get good results because one, you did the plan, and two, it's written, so that's good. But even better than that is if you can do a weekly call where you talk about your plan and you do the email. That's how you can get best results. Maximum results come from doing it one-on-one with someone, having an accountability partner, having a weekly call, and emailing it all, which is what I do, provides max results. The most important thing for success is progress, and the way to get progress is to make it part of your schedule week in and week out. Don't make excuses, make results. Don't make excuses, make results. So what will you accomplish in the next couple of years or the next year or the next 6 months, right? It's created by that weekly personal implementation plan. Clarity, increase in sales, improvement of operations, higher customer value and retention, customers who refer, systems in place, more time off, the exit strategy, that's all there. So what we covered here was an introduction, what and why of weekly personal implementation plans. We covered part 1, which is wins for the week. Part 2, which is the top items for next week. Part 3, the rewards. And part 4, the mighty mastermind. And there's the fist pump baby with the sand in his hand. Actually, he's got a little sand in his mouth too. Implementation plan done. Yes. I'm Blaine Elkers, your implementation consultant. Take care, take control, and make it a great day.